Ba-ba-ba. Ba-ba-ba. Hello. Just give me a second to advertise what I'm doing. How do I make it default to live chat? Like it's so annoying that it doesn't default to live chat when I do this. It defaults to top chat for some reason. Hello, hello.
Whoa.
Hold on. I'm just trying to advertise a few things in a few places. Where is it?
Oh, I had stream sound on.
Hmm.
It's bad. That.
Where's the? I share my work. There's the thing. There we go. Oh, I just got the notification again. All right. I think I'm just gonna get started right away. I'm not gonna not gonna wait for people and this time because I don't know. I'm a little bit tighter on time, but we'll see. In any case,
It's okay. This is a shorter section. It's only 6 pages.
how the modern split facts. This is the 6 pages, you say? Yes, that
There's
makes
the
sense.
35.
Well, the last section was only like I want to say was also only 6 pages, right? Or even
It was
fewer.
like
It was fewer than 6. It was
7.
no, because it was
Oh
25
wait.
to 20 to 29, so it was only 4 pages.
Yeah, you're right.
And that took like an hour, but whatever, it's fine. We did also get sidetracked at the very end, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, summarizing from yesterday, uh, the previous chapter, I guess, more or less established the idea that the Factish is not like something to be feared. I guess, um, that in fact it's more or less necessary for people to even live. And Latour drew on a fictional example where an anti-fetishist in India is trying to dispel his servants of the idea of the fetish, and in doing so, um, turns them into objects, himself into a beast, like metaphorically, not literally in the narrative. But you, hopefully, this is understood. Uh, Point is though is that um, the attempt is unsuccessful, uh, namely because not only does the anti-fetishism uh, like attribute the power to the object in the way that he's described as having the power to invert uh power and then invert the inversion, but also uh by multiplying the operators and invoking his fetish power as the overseer, as the master. Um so in other words, just to summarize all of that, the Factish is not something that is, there's nothing wrong with using these, and in fact it's necessary. And attempts to undermine Factishes as just like a category are doomed to failure because of how anti-fetishism functions. um is more or less what I got. uh Envy, anything to add to that?
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. The only thing I would ever add is kind of what I said last time. It's not really for you; it's for anyone watching.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Factish is the combination of the words fact and fetish,
Mm-hmm.
but don't think of this as a combination of two things into one thing. There is only one thing, and that is the
Mm-hmm.
factish.
Yep.
It's a lot of Latour's ideas are like that, and it's very important.
Yeah.
It's just important as I bring it up again, especially because of what I read today in
Mm-hmm.
Politics of Nature, where he talks about overcoming the subject object divide, and how when he's talking of actors, he is not talking of subjects and objects joined together. There is only one thing that is actors, things that act,
Mm-hmm.
and these are like different in their ways, but they belong to the same category of thing, basically.
Mm-hmm. All makes sense. Yeah. So the fact a fact doesn't is not a thing, and a fetish is not a thing. It is literally only the factish uh that is there. Uh, just to simplify.
In a It's kind of funny. In a sense, you could describe facts and fetishes as both two factishes,
Mm-hmm.
which I'm pretty sure is kind of. I
Yeah.
think this is where Latour takes it here. Um, yeah, but that might be my own thing.
But it's like it's a split that exists in theory, and
Yeah.
and I'm thinking it serves some kind of point. Also, sorry if there's background noise, but um, the
Okay.
split exists in theory, but does not. It's not like a feature of the actual of practice. It's not a feature of practice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I will now continue reading. Um, uh, just to go from the last paragraph. Um, we no longer need to mock the moderns who might believe in anti-fetishism just as naively as the Gold Coast blacks believed in their fetishes and the old aunts in their shallograms. The moderns too have a factish, a fascinating, subtle, sly trickster. Now we need simply to sketch out its form and understand how it works. And that will be the project for um, for next for this next section. So, um, how to draw the modern's split factishes. People sometimes make fun of the crude nature of fetishes. A rough-hewn tree trunk, clumsily carved stones, grimacing masks. And this goes to 33, which I will bring up here. If it can, there we go. Latch on. So 33. Ever since Charles de Brosis, who is the author of the book that this title is mocking, so it was like, I think it's On the Cult of the Fetish Gods is the title of that book. And
Yeah.
the title of this book is directly a response to that title. But yes, ever since Charles de Brosis, much has been made of the material, thick, shapeless, and stupid character of brute fetishes. But such an approach forgets that res extensa is only brutish by opposition with a knowing mind. I don't know what res extensa means, so let me.
I looked it up. It means it literally means extended thing.
Okay.
It's apparently Descartes has it's one of the two substances he describes.
Oh. Oh, okay.
Alongside
Yes,
res
yes, yes.
cognans, which I assume means
It's yes,
uh
that's mind. Yeah, so in Descartes'
yeah
dualism, there's mind and there's matter. So res extensa, it would be that which has extension, which makes it
yeah.
matter, and then the uh the mind is something which doesn't have extension and is a property of the it's like it's attached to the immaterial soul. But yeah. But yes, I do. I don't remember if the translation I have of Descartes used the Latin for these two things, but I do recognize the distinction. But yes, yes. But such an approach forgets that the res extensa is only brutish by opposition with a knowing mind. But so yeah, so the res extensa, that being, the soulless material, is only brutish if it's being opposed to uh the the mind. Yeah. uh the wood, bone, clay, feather, or marble matter of these fetishes thinks, speaks, and is articulated like any other matter. A stone has nothing particularly shapeless about it. its articulation its articulations allow as much talk making as those of lactic acid ferment. Um, so this seems, I think, talk making in this case would be like, is this like something discursive, or is this just like the fact? Is it just meaning that it has like a social existence, or what specifically does talk making mean?
um I think talk making, at least throughout his work, can take on a lot of different things.
Mm-hmm.
So I explained something kind of poorly when I was talking to you,
Mm-hmm.
and it was that through Latour, objects do you could say talk or speak, and then just be like, but they don't. But you say one or the other, and you say, but they don't do this. They don't. You say talk, but they don't speak or whatever you want to include.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have vocals chords, but they very much
Mm-hmm.
speak to us through like instruments and all these other things. They extend
Mm-hmm.
themselves to us in specific ways.
Mm-hmm.
Like in This Is How They Speaks, but I think also very much it is about them making us talk, making us have um, uh, 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 dialogue with each other, um, and stuff like that.
Okay. Pippa says, I think he says the fetish is a talk maker. I mean,
Yeah.
yes, that is true, right? I'm just trying to figure out what specifically talk making means. But I think sorry, there's
The
I don't know if you could
the
hear
line
any of that, but there's background noise today. Uh,
the line from earlier
mhm.
um is uh it is what is it? I can find it pretty easily because it uses the word provokes. The two words of the word indicate rather well the ambiguity surrounding an object that talks, that is fabricated, or to blend both meanings into a single expression, an object that provokes talk.
Okay.
It is, yeah.
So yeah, so
It's
it's the talk making is what happens when the when there's the passage between fact and fetish in practice, I guess. Is that a good way to put it?
uh, yeah, yeah, partly,
Okay,
yeah, yeah.
cool.
That's fine.
Just making sure I understand. Anyway, continuing. I trust I shall be forgiven then if I propose a similarly awkward portrait of modern factishes, a rather crude Macintosh diagram, figure 6. So I'm gonna have him explain this first because this seems a little bit complicated, but yeah, a rather crude Macintosh diagram. Macintosh as in like the Apple, or Macintosh as in the computer like the computer, or what? Do do, you,
I
do we know?
think think it is. I think it is the computer.
Maybe.
I think it is the computer.
Interesting.
Me and Peppa talked about this when we read this for the first time together. I'm pretty
Mhm.
sure it's the computer.
Okay. Because it
I
doesn't.
remember correctly from
I
the
was gonna
little
say, like,
dialogue.
could you maybe say that this is like an apple shape? It's not really, but I don't know. But anyway.
Uh, I think what he means is this was published in 96, and I assume there was. It seems like at least in the notes. I don't know how much
Mhm.
he like refigured, but this would have been like even assuming that he added more. I don't know what's in the original essay because this is taken from an original essay by him. Um and yeah, the notes obviously were updated and stuff, so more stuff might have been added. But this would have been like the 2010s, I think.
Gotcha.
Factish Guys was like 2010.
Okay, so you're saying he was a Mac user.
Well, what I'm saying is this would have been like in like the like potentially the early days of computers.
Yeah. I kid.
So they
I
would have
kid.
been so they would have been rather crude.
Uh-huh. Okay, so I'm not 100% sure what this like little is this like a scanning error here with the like the um like very subtle curved line, because it's not labeled as anything. Um,
Yeah, I think it
yeah,
is.
that's probably just a scanning error. But anyway, okay. So I think I understand here. So like the first break being the reality object and the fabrication subject pole. So that was the thing earlier where in theory we have to uh have a a distinction between them, supposedly, right? Um, in theory, whereas in practice we don't have any such distinction. So this is the first break. But then the second break is the dichotomy itself between theory and practice, which on the one hand demands choosing construction and reality versus practice, which has the passage between construction and reality. Um, and it seems to be saying here that like the notion of factish makes visible the two breaks, the first between reality and fabrication, and the second between theory and practice, and constantly ignored by the middle pass. So the middle pass being the origin point here. Um,
Yeah.
so I guess maybe what I'm wondering is that, oh, this is a two-way arrow. Never mind. It doesn't um it's not that's not super important. So it's interesting though because um with the two-way arrow, which represents the passage, right? um the bottom is practice. So it says bottom practice, pass through factishes. It says top theory, choose between facts and fetishes. So are we meant to think of this two-way arrow as like is this a sectoral graph? Like, is the fabrication subject pole theory versus practice thing, like, are we meant to think that these four quadrants each mean something distinct, or is it just the a representation of the top break versus the theory practice break? If that made any sense. I don't know if that made any sense.
Uh, the second one. It's almost certainly a representation of the top break versus
Yeah.
the break vertically and the break horizontally.
Yeah.
That's how I'll
So
put it.
so each of these like having it exist in one quadrant, a specific quadrant, is not the important part here.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. But yes. Anyway, what is particularly interesting about our factishes is that they have been doubly broken, first vertically, then laterally. The first break allows for a violent separation between the subject and object poles, between the world of representations and the world of things. So this would be like the Kantian noumena and phenomena. Um, and then the second, slanted break, introduces an even more violent separation between the theoretical form of life, which takes this first uh, distinction between objects and subjects seriously, and a quite different practical form of life in which we carry on in peace and quiet without ever being able to make a definitive distinction between what we make with our own hands and what exists outside of our hands. And this is much more Humean than. Okay, so Pippa says there are sort of three sections, two on top theory, one beneath practice, is what Pippa says. Yes, yes, because one practice is just itself. It's not because practice dissolves the distinction, but theory uh,
Yeah.
maintains it. Um,
Yeah.
Hold on, and then 34. What does 34 say? This diagram fleshes out somewhat the overly abstract one provided in We Have Never Been Modern. I am replacing the double separation between nature and society on the one hand, and between purification and mediation on the other, with an object that contains both of them, and whose presence, shape, and composition can be studied empirically. I've not read We Have Never Been Modern. Envy, do you want to comment on this one?
I can actually very simply by sending you the diagram he means to talk about.
Okay, cool.
I'm pretty sure if I not have it saved, but do I not actually have it saved? Oh wait, let me just go. If I look in my messages with Pippa, I'll be able to find it.
Mm-hmm.
From there has link or embed, and we want it has image. Found it. Oh, it's so easy. So freaking easy. Copy image. There we go. That's the
Oh,
diagram, and
Jesus.
as you can see, it is quite similar in structure to
Yeah,
in a lot of ways to like the diagrams in it, but
mhm.
they're all obviously also very different.
I wonder if I can hold on. Let me link. Can I open this in? Yeah, here we go. Um,
Yeah.
I agree. This diagram is much more abstract. Honestly, I find this one a lot harder to parse, but I think I can like backfit it, um, because there's the first dichotomy being the theoretical split. There's non-humans and nature versus human culture. So this would correspond to the reality versus the real versus the constructed. Um, and then the second dichotomy would be between the work of purification, which corresponds purification being the purification by critical sociology, which thrusts the dichotomy upon ordinary actors, versus the work of translation, which bridges between which makes no distinction, and in fact bridges between the non-human nature and human culture. Um, I think that's how I'm meant to interpret this. Am I getting that?
You're close enough. You're close
Mhm.
enough. It is like I said, Latour often explores similar ideas in very different ways. We have
Mhm.
never been modern is it. I personally explain it a little bit different. But that's honestly, it's good enough.
Okay, cool.
You for what you know about Factish gods, if this was a diagram in Factish gods, you would have it like literally right.
Okay, cool. Um, awesome.
You
I
would you
am
yeah you would yeah if this was like a Factish gods diagram, you would have gotten it perfectly.
Yeah, and I imagine if I had read "We Have Never Been Modern," then uh it would have a new meaning to me in some way. But anyway,
Yeah.
continuing.
Yeah.
Um, Faced with the cleverness of this mechanism. Hold on, did I want to highlight something here? Um, yeah, I wanted to highlight the description of the figure. Anyway, faced with the cleverness of this mechanism, we can understand how the moderns can believe that they and they alone are free from belief and fetishes. On top, the break between constructing subjects and autonomous objects hides the factish. On the bottom, the effectiveness of the factish is displayed, but the indefinite discourse referring to this effectiveness is constantly interrupted and displaced, as if it had to encrypt the unending work of its mediations in order to make them visible to theory.
Invisible to theory.
Invisible, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
All right, let me
No,
reread
it's
that
fine.
so I can make sure I understand. So, on the top, the break between constructing subjects and autonomous objects hides the factish. On the bottom, the effectiveness of the factish is displayed, but the indefinite discourse referring to this effectiveness is constantly interrupted and displaced, as if it had to encrypt the unending work of its mediations in order to make them invisible to theory. Um, River, I don't understand. What do you mean? What am I saying? I'm reading out the text.
All I have to say is a yes in response to that.
All right. In order to make them invisible to theory. So in other words, like this is I think what he was uh talking about earlier, where it's just kind of on the hush hush, uh where the in practice we just kind of do it, but then we don't really talk about it. Talk about
Yeah.
having done it. Yes. Constructing a subject equals, oh, I see.
Yes. Yeah.
I see.
What,
Between,
what he's
yes.
what he I don't think he ever says it throughout this, but he is
Hmm.
going over his dislike of the subject object distinction
Yes.
in this fucking
Subjects
the subject object divide
construct.
with
Yeah.
this, which is kind of important. Latour really doesn't like
Hmm.
Kant um in a lot of because of that. He doesn't like
Hmm.
the Kantianism that a lot of people have.
Yeah. Okay. I think I can see that. And I think it makes, so I was reading a little bit, and I think that Latour had some influence on what is it? Like object oriented ontology. Um
Yep, he did.
and I think given what he's saying, that this makes sense. Though from what little I know about object oriented ontology, I'm not super convinced by it. So I'm interested to see like if he explicitly outlines something like OOO, or if it's a or if it's just like a precursor to OOO. Um and we
I
shall. Hmm?
I don't know. I've only read the someone recommended me a book about it, and I was like, maybe I'll like this, maybe I won't. I only read the introduction, and then I started uh, reading Politics of Nature and Empiricism and Subjectivity
Yeah.
and
And
another book. So I just stopped.
to be clear, I'm so this is going to be a very, very ignorant statement about object-oriented ontology. So if you're an object-oriented ontology fan, you are free to correct me if I'm wrong about this. This is completely, completely ignorant. I know very little about it. However, what what I think repels me from it is that it feels like we're just reifying the object as a thing. If we then like put the emphasis back on them as like the nodes basically rather than the edges. Um so like nodes and edges being like the graph theory term for the points that are connected to each other and the connections themselves. So like I think the like the Wikipedia level description of OOO was that um just as there's a distortion between the Kantian noumena and like our apprehension of them. Supposedly in OOO, all objects have a fundamental distortion between one another that is similar to the noumena phenomena. And so I think the idea is just that it's not unique to the human subject that the interface between the noumena and our like faculties of experience is distorted. It's not unique to humans, and thus there's not really a reason to privilege humans specifically in this arrangement. Um, I think is what is being said. Again, if you are an object oriented ontology fan, feel free to correct me on this. Again, very ignorant on this. Um, and I think though that this emphasizes. I'm very much more of the what I'm getting from Latour is much more the connections mattering, like the edges of the graph rather than the nodes. Whereas OOO seems to, in my very surface level ignorant reading, uh, be focusing on the nodes over the edges. And I could be wrong. Again, if you're an OOO fan, feel free to correct me. Could be very wrong. But that's just the impression that I get from the very little that I know about it. Um, anyway, uh, so now that I've stopped talking out of my ass, I can now continue. Um, where was I? Where was I? I kind of lost my place.
Between the two.
Yes, right. Between the two, the separation is total. This protects both the effectiveness of the passage on the bottom and the purity of theory on the top, or on top. The modern's factish is thus triply invisible, as long as others elsewhere, like Jagannath, who was the person from the previous chapter, do not reflect that unified image back to us. As soon as we grasp the image, the identifying picture, we notice that the factish resides in the mechanism as a whole. This mechanism must thus be portrayed in its entirety if we are to understand why the moderns believe in belief and believe themselves to be fetishless. Interesting. So I think if I'm reading this correct, does this mean that the moderns are not really anti-fetishists at all? That the moderns are a separate class from the fetishists and the anti-fetishists? Because what he says earlier is that anti-fetishists also don't believe in belief. Um, but the moderns supposedly do. Um, so is there it am I misunderstanding that?
Um, from what I remember, the anti-fetishist is just somebody they denounce belief.
Mhm.
Um, but the modernists do this too, kind of.
Yeah.
In a certain sense. But but an anti-fetishist is just someone call someone else a fetishist. It is just who believes others to be
Yes.
fetishists. It's a very particular thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I, it's setting up a very specific dichotomy, but there is a little bit. There is, but yes, there is a little bit. From what I'm pretty sure there is a little bit of a distinction,
Mm-hmm.
not not necessarily like a major one, not like a separating one. Like you can
Mm-hmm.
be modern and anti-fetishist,
Yeah.
but um there is a bit of a
Mm-hmm.
to be a modern you have to be an
Yeah.
anti-fetishist.
So I guess, yeah. So that's, I guess what's bugging me though is that, like, because in order to because like what Latour wants to say, at least what I perceived him as saying, is that anti-fetishists do not believe in belief, which is to say that they don't believe that they don't believe that that people believe in the way that is being attributed to them. Um like in the same way that the fetishist doesn't believe in belief. Like they don't believe that they are mere believers, I guess. You know, they are not subscribing to the idea that there is this separation between what is true and what you or I shouldn't say what is true and what you believe, but like the idea of the constructed versus the real, where the constructed is merely a a belief in something which is not real. Um and he seems to be saying that the anti-fetishists don't believe in belief either. Um, but he's saying here that the moderns do believe in belief. So
Yes,
that's why I'm
they
confused here.
they both do.
Okay.
They both do. Um, I'm I just literally thought of the perfect explanation and now I lost it. Um, but anti-fetishism, um, when they're making the double uh when they're making the double denunciation, um, they are not they are okay. So the way the moderns I figured it out. The way the moderns believe in belief is not by being necessarily religious or anything of that sort. It is by putting belief on other people. That is how they are
Mm-hmm.
anti that's how they are that's how they believe in belief. And
Okay.
that's how it works. And the moderns work kind of similarly. Um in a safe way, but in a different way, I guess.
Okay.
Uh
So this is okay.
sorry, the
I'm
anti-fetishists do.
looking through, and this is why I'm a little bit confused. So if we go back to how the moderns managed to build fetishes in their own lands, the very first line is, "If we allow ourselves to learn from those who do not believe in belief, we notice that the moderns do not believe in it any more than the coastal blacks did. The whites may have accused the savages of fetishism, but this did not necessarily make them naive anti-fetishists themselves." So this is why I'm a little confused, because it seems like he's saying that on some register they do believe in belief, but that in another register they don't. And I'm
Yes, they just as the Gold Coast blacks do not believe in belief, there's a similar way because the way the moderns um believe in belief is not by in believing it themselves, but by putting it onto others.
oh, okay.
Belief
So
for them
mhm,
is like a it is a way for them. He literally describes it in the beginning as like
mhm,
it's how they interact with the it's how they interact with the world.
yeah. Well, it's
Uh,
the differentiating function here to
yeah,
say that we are, we are the good ones. We have the appropriate relationship to our fetishes, whereas you don't, kind of thing. Um, okay. I think that satisfies it for now, but um I'm gonna continue. Is this so he hasn't yet said what has he not yet said what the modern factish is, or the modern's factish is. Um
it's the diagram.
okay,
Uh,
this specific, yes, this formation
yes,
of the
yes.
the first and second break. and thus this whole diagram is obscured. Like, this whole differentiation is obscured. It has to be. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. As soon as we grasp the image, the identifying picture, we notice that the factish resides in the mechanism as a whole. This mechanism must thus be portrayed in its entirety if we are to understand why the moderns believe in belief and believe themselves to be fetishless. Wherever the moderns must simultaneously construct and be caught up by what excites them, in public squares, laboratories, churches, courtrooms, supermarkets, asylums, artist studios, excuse me, factories, bedrooms. We have to imagine that such factishes are erected the way earlier a sorry. We have to imagine that such factishes are erected the way earlier a cross or the statue of an emperor might have been raised. Oh, okay, sorry. We have to imagine that such factishes are erected the way a cross or a statue of an emperor might have been raised, and then earlier just signifying that it happened earlier in the okay. Um, I think diagrams. Lisa, is a blogger or just is a blogger? Um, Whatever the case may be. I quite like this diagram because everything is well explained, and it's not meant to speak for itself. Like, he has the explanation included. Um and it also helps that he has like constituent diagrams that make up this diagram earlier. It
Yeah.
helps me understand. Um
Latour loves diagrams.
yeah.
Come up in like every one of his books.
hmm Anyhow, but so we have to imagine that the factishes were already existent. Um, but like the statues of Hermes castrated by Al Al I'm not even gonna say by Al, castrated by Al, these factishes are all broken, shattered by the hammers of critical thought, whose long history takes us back to the Greeks who abandoned the idols of the cave but put ideas on pedestals, to the Jews who broke the golden calf but built the temple, to the Christians who burned pagan statues but painted icons, to the Protestants who whitewashed frescoes but brandished the true text of the Bible from the pulpit, to the revolutionaries who overthrew the old regimes but founded a cult devoted to the goddess reason, to the hammer wielding philosophers who put a stethoscope to the cavernous emptiness of the statues of every cult but put the ancient pagan gods of the will to power back in place. I'm guessing this is specifically aimed at Nietzsche. Um, that last one. Uh, let me let me bring up that footnote and we'll see. 35.
Yeah.
On this long entangled history, see chapter 2. We'll see in chapter 2. Okay. Um but yeah, this
It actually probably isn't necessarily Nietzsche himself. It might actually be the people who took who might have used Nietzsche in their writing. I actually wonder.
maybe. Well, because
Um
Nietzsche is like the philosophize with a hammer, and also I believe that the emptiness of the old statues is like a thing in one of his books.
I don't know enough about Nietzsche. All I know, I just don't know for sure, especially because
Mhm.
Nietzsche is really important for Latour, but obviously that doesn't
Oh,
mean you
for
can't
sure.
take him.
Yeah, but
He yeah, Michel Serres is really important for Latour, but in politics of nature, he ends up critiquing him a little bit.
yeah.
But
Yeah. So, as we can see in Montegna's two Saint Sebastians in Vienna and Paris, the moderns can replace the ancient idols that lie broken at their feet only with another statue. It too made of stone and on a pedestal. It too broken by the martyr, pierced by arrows, destroyed at once. Chase the factish through the door. It will come back through the window. That's funny. But no, I am mistaken. We have to add one more thing to these factishes. We have to revise the diagram in order to incorporate the work by which the broken statues have been repaired, mended, patched up. We know that ethnologists and ethnopsychiatrists alike admire, and rightly so, the nails, hair, feathers, cowrie shells, sacrifications, and tattoos that mark.
Scarifications.
Sorry?
Scarifications.
Scarifications. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, scarifications and tattoos that marked the old fetishes. I mean the destitute fetishes of the Gold Coast people before they were tossed into a bonfire or kept in a cabinet of curiosities. What can we say then about the extraordinary proliferation of marks, bits of string, feather, barbed wire, scotch tape, pins, and staples that have always been used to repair the split top of the modern factishes, as well as the fasteners that used to keep them upright on their pedestals? From the beginning, everyone has done repair work, endlessly mending the twofold tear. Why do ethno?
Also, can I
Yep.
also I want to say something.
Hmm.
This is where he's coming first full circle back to the beginning.
Hmm.
The little story section in the
Yes.
beginning with the that
Yeah. Like the fictional quotation that starts the
yeah
starts.
the the modems, yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, the mode. Yeah, that's great. Why do ethnologists take so little interest in this marvelous mending that allows the effectiveness of factishes to be repaired every day in 1,000 different ways, even though theory has broken the passage between construction and reality? If the factishes had been broken for good, no one, anywhere, could continue to act. But if the factishes had not been broken by solid hammer blows, the moderns would not be radically different from anyone else. There would not even be any difference between the bottom of their factishes and the top. Oh, yeah, that's UNV. Sorry. um, the moderns would go into action as they have always done in darkest Africa, as they do every day in the vast chattering and silent country of practice. Why that bizarre configuration? Why break and then repair, as the Korean whose text I invented in the prologue was wondering? Yep, explicit circling back around. Because by syrup, and this is going to be important, I think, because this is like the question I've been asking, like why do we have this split? um, because by surreptitiously carrying out the task of resolving the continuous contradiction imposed by the violent break of the passing and mediating factishes, the moderns must have been able to mobilize incredible forces that never looked menacing or monstrous. The broken top of the fetishes is not just one more illusio, an ideology that would disguise the true world of practice with a false consciousness. It is not. It's not just one more illusio. It upsets the theory of action, creates the independent world of practice, and allows it to unfold without ever having to justify itself on the spot. Interesting. Thanks to the broken idols, it is possible to innovate without taking any risks, without accepting any responsibility or being exposed to any danger. Others, later, elsewhere, will pay the price, will feel the impact, evaluate the fallout, and try to contain the damage. Okay, interesting. Um, Envy, is he going to give an example of this? Uh,
Yeah, it's literally yes, it's literally in the next paragraph
okay,
where
cool.
he gives the example, yeah.
Because okay, so if I'm understanding like what's happening here is that like basically the difference, the cordoning off between theory and practice allows for practice to be done without oversight. Is that what's being said?
Not without oversight,
Mm-hmm.
but there is a um how do I explain? Um when you are create when you are a scientist, when you are discovering, we're going to go with the classic Latour example, TRF. When you are figuring out what TRF is like, you see lines in the graph at first,
Mm-hmm.
and you get to do this partly because you get to say that there is because of the break. You just say there was something already there that we just didn't notice,
Mm-hmm.
that we just simply didn't know about and stuff like that. You don't really have to think about it all that much because it's something already a part of the world. You get to innovate like that without taking any risks because it's already something that's part of everything else. It's and if there is any issues, others will pay for it, like with asbestos. Asbestos was called he talks about it was called like the magic substance or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And as we know now, asbestos extremely dangerous.
Okay.
Um,
Huh. So Lisa, I don't it is not the factish is not the opposite of fetish. The factish is all that there is. A fetish for Latour is something that exists in the realm of theory. So the theory separates fetish from fact. But the factish is what allows passage between the real and the constructed. So it's not the opposite. And in fact, I think there was an earlier footnote where he says basically that in French, um, the like factish has a little bit more ambiguity to it because it also retains uh fey in it, like that being the fairy object. Um, but it
no, it's because but in chat, it's because these are pronounced the same.
yes, because fey and fey are pronounced the yes.
Yeah,
So yeah, in French, it's a little bit there's like a little bit of wordplay going on that's lost in English. Um, but yeah, it's not the opposite of the fetish, um, nor is it the opposite of the fact either.
yeah.
That's important. Okay, so I'm kind of so it upsets the theory of action, creates independent world of practice, and allows it to unfold without ever having to justify itself on the spot. So I guess my question is justify it to who? To whom? Who who would otherwise who would it otherwise need to be justified to?
Um, Probably he's going to. He probably means people like politicians,
Okay.
and stuff like that. People, but you get to say, "I'm just doing science.
Right.
Just doing science."
Okay.
You don't get to, uh, even though in doing science, you are almost certainly going to potentially upset quite a bit,
Mhm.
as we know from stuff like stuff surrounding global warming, stuff surrounding substances that may turn out to actually be dangerous,
Mhm.
all this stuff. But you get to make these things while they're potentially dangerous, but you also later, in a certain sense, get to study those substances more and go, oh no, my my work showed this and this,
Mhm.
without any real repercussions.
Okay. I'm gonna see if I understand it better when he goes into this example here. Um, so the researcher at the Institut Pasteur, who introduced, I'm guessing this is a proper noun, the Institut Pasteur, who
Yeah,
introduces himself to me innocently, saying, "Hello, I'm the coordinator for beer yeast chromosome 11," is doing exactly what astonished Levi Strauss when he heard the Bororo declare that Bororos are araras, that is, parrots. The researcher is mixing up his own properties with those of beer yeast, just as Pasteur mixed up his own body with acid, and as the people of the Amazon region mixed up their own culture with the nature that surrounded them. And that goes to 36. Uh, On these mixtures, see the quite beautiful book by Philippa Discola, in the Society of
Yes,
Nature.
Discola. Yes.
Sorry?
Discola comes up a lot in the first
Okay.
stuff.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
In the Society of Nature, a native ecology in Amazonia, translated by Anne Discola's literary and reflective reinterpretation in The Spears of Twilight, Life and Death in the Amazon Jungle. Okay. Of course, our researcher does not really mistake himself for a chromosome, any more than the Bororos really think that they are parrots. But after the interview, after spending 3 hours going over Europe, the beer industry, Macintosh programs for visualizing DNA bases, and the I'm not even going to pronounce this genome. He confides just as innocently, but all I'm doing is science. Here is the little difference, the break in symmetry. For if the world of parrots cannot shift without upsetting that of the Bororos and vice versa, it is possible for this researcher to take himself for a chromosome and upset a whole industry, a whole science, as if this double shock stirred up only homogeneous facts. When beer yeast chromosome 11 appears in the world, it will simply add one element to the furnishings, all at once, by surprise, of nature alone, on top, in plain sight. On the other side, caught by surprise, others will suddenly have to take care of the consequences, ethical, political, and economic, of this action. The researcher himself does, will do only science. Okay, interesting. So I think so. It is the idea here that in separating theory from practice, um, it allows the researcher to have this kind of theoretical autonomy between what he does and what the social world does with what he does. Is that the
Yes.
idea? Okay.
Yes. The people who created asbestos in no way had to. I this might actually not be true, but I assume it's not. I assume they were actually dead. So I think asbestos was
Mhm.
discovered really early, and its properties were like in the 1920s, and then it was like not until like 1980 when it was finally realized, or even later, maybe
Mhm.
even a little bit later. They had no way to pay. It was those other people. Everyone else does. They have to figure it out later.
Okay.
They because they you end up using it, end up using the stuff, and it
Mhm.
ends up getting intertwined because it's a part of our world now. It's not separate from us anymore.
Okay.
It's not distant from us anymore.
Sorry, I'm just okay, interesting. So is this like fascinating. Okay. So if I'm understanding correctly, then this is like this is the immediate distinction, or like the in our culture we make the distinction between uh the science and the use of the science, right? Like we say, um science is neutral, but it can be used for good or ill. um so in that sense, the science itself is absolved of any kind of um relationship to it that would make it in some way responsible for what happens. Or I guess the researchers are absolved of the responsibility. um
Facts are the facts.
okay. I,
Unless
mhm.
the thing is, unless they can prove, unless some politician, some other researcher, someone else can impose the social base is what I'm going to say, can impose the social onto this scientist. The scientist was not actually treating the facts as the facts. They were actually doing something else. Then they were actually imposing their own biases, their own prejudices, all this stuff,
Mm-hmm.
which is not science. That is not, and stuff like that. Then yeah, it's
Interesting.
they're just doing their job.
Okay.
They're
Hmm.
just following orders.
Yeah. So I find that interesting, and I find it so I'm okay. Let me probe at this a little bit, right? Because I think it's easy to say something like this for like asbestos, for example, right? Um, well, actually, I don't know how asbestos was developed. Was asbestos developed as an insulator, or was it developed for some other reason first?
Um, I think that it was like discovered as I think asbestos. Oh, no, I can probably look it up. Uh, when was asbestos
Okay.
used as an insulator? In the mid 1860s through the 1970s.
Okay.
This doesn't give me what I want though.
All right. Let me just use an example I'm more familiar with, right? So, how about like nuclear physics, right? So
Mhm.
there is a difference, at least to me, in my current frame of view, right? Um, there is a difference between somebody who is doing nuclear physics and, you know, out of their own curiosity uh is trying to figure out like what exactly the like atomic interactions are doing, and what happens when you take atoms apart. What are their constituent parts? Do they have constituent parts? All this kind of stuff, right? To me, there's a difference between that and then the other side, which is like uh somebody who's part of the Manhattan Project. Because on the Manhattan Project, there's a clear goal involved where it's use nuclear, use what you know about about nuclear physics to make a bomb, right? Um, and it seems, at least on first glance, that there would be a difference between those, because like could the researcher who just is doing things for nuclear physics, like out of their own curiosity, is not being paid by like a corporation, right? um is trying to discover these things on their own. uh are they the same level of accountable as somebody like on the Manhattan Project, who was oriented specifically um towards that goal of making something that is destructive? And it,
Um,
like I'm struggling here because I find it, because
I'm
like
not
I
sure.
hmm go
There's
ahead.
a specific problem in that there Latour. It is not that he's non um that he doesn't like have values or stuff.
hmm
But with this, it isn't really about values. Like the example he gives is like something that's kind of benign, and that's beer use chromosome 11.
hmm
And it's like he gives a very benign example in this case.
hmm
And I think it's because this isn't an issue for him. It's not. Of course, like stuff happens. Like sometimes you develop something, think it's going to be good, like maybe the people who ever just discovered that asbestos really good at insulating.
hmm
They might not have known immediately that it even gave cancer. Like it might have been not even been thought about like just at all,
hmm
or like considered as even a possibility. Um, so I'm not sure his intention with this is to say that like the researcher should even necessarily be blamed.
okay.
Um, is I guess the thing.
Hmm.
Just that the researcher never has to pay for any of the consequences, whether they be good or bad.
Okay.
Whether they be good or bad, it's always someone else.
Okay. So the issue is not necessarily that the issue is not okay. Maybe my thought is like in my head it's like, oh, well he's saying that the researcher bears some responsibility, but he's not saying that they always will as much as he's saying that in the current setup of things they never will. Like it's
Yeah,
set up such that there is nothing that would make them have to bear that consequence ever.
when you are considered to only be doing science,
Mhm.
never bear the consequences. But there
Yeah.
is, of course, cases where researchers are not considered to only be doing science. The
Yeah.
poor talks about this and other stuff. I forget if he brings it up
Mhm.
later on in like next sections coming up.
Mhm.
But they obviously are uh, punished. And these are the sciences that are deemed to be like artifacts, and they are punished in some way, whether
Yeah.
it's something benign like not being taken seriously, or it is something like a
Mhm.
lot more serious,
Okay.
like committing an ethical violation or something like that and going to jail or just something
Yeah.
like that, just like
Okay.
something like that.
So here's then though is that even still, even if the researchers in those cases um is being punished in some way or ignored, the integrity of the science itself is still maintained. It's just that that researcher was doing it wrong or doing it in a way that was leading to bad outcomes. The science itself can never be thought of as like the practice can't ever be seen as uh implicated in any way.
Um, yes,
You seem
maybe.
hesitant. So I don't want to hold you to that if you're not
Um,
sure.
no, I'm not sure. I guess. Um, mm,
Cuz like to me that's how I like I this is just a connection I'm making where it's like um it and maybe the like with ABA specifically this is something that I notice, right? Where um even when individual actors within ABA are uh are castigated for doing something wrong, or a specific like it comes out that like this that this specific thing is harmful to children, or this specific technique that's used in ABA is harmful. This researcher did XYZ thing that's bad, whatever, right? Even when all that is pointed out, there's always recourse back to, well, this isn't the fault of ABA, the practice itself. It's always just, there was a bad actor. Uh, it's not like the practice itself never comes under scrutiny because it's
yeah.
just the science, it's uh and so it's I would and in this formulation, it goes beyond uh the researcher not having to face any kind of having to interface with the consequences. It's like the science itself that doesn't have to interface.
Uh, the answer to your question is actually definitive yes. I
Hmm.
just now I understood exactly what you were asking. I thought you were saying something a bit different, and I that wouldn't have been correct. I don't know how to say. I don't know how to say it
Okay.
now, but yeah, the answer is yes.
Okay. Pippa says there may be some overthinking going on here. For Latour, the scientific and nature and political culture cannot be separated. The moderns separate, purify in theory, but in practice they operate with factishes translation. right? But
Yeah,
he's
that's what Sirius was. Yeah, that's what Sirius was. I'm pretty sure that's what you're saying, right?
yeah, like and it, but it's also
Okay.
that like it's saying that like there is a specific factish here. This double break allows for the uh the scientist to have a kind of autonomy, or for science as a practice to have this autonomy, right? That's what its function is. That's the function of the modern's
Yeah.
factish.
Yeah.
So like he's not saying, I'm not saying that in fact there is this separation, but that this separation is is instituted um so such that this specific kind of I shouldn't say such that, because then it implies it's being like one person's like, I'm going to divide it this way, but it institutes this specific divide that allows for the relative autonomy of practice from theory, um and allows for you to say, I'm just doing the science, this is just what the science says, whether or not you like it. uh, yeah. That's
Yeah.
how I'm understanding this section. Um, yes.
No, that's right.
Okay, cool. So, deep in your laboratory, you can revolutionize the world, modify genes, reformat birth and death, implant yes. Pippa says, ah, yes, the theoretical separation allows for the researcher to do only science. Yeah, exactly. So it's not a he doesn't want to say that the distinction is deep, but that the distinction is being created um in it through this factish, that being the double break. Anyway, yeah, so you can reformat birth and death, implant prostheses, redefine the laws of the economy. All this will never appear as anything other than simple, silent, opaque practice. On top, in the light of broken fetishes, people will speak only of science on one side and of freedom on the other, without ever mixing the two. Even if by some prudent mending, and with many feedback loops, arrows, and round trips, the two broken parts are fitted back together, though their spirit can never be glued back into place. All the advantages of criticism on top, all the advantages of practice on the bottom, all the advantages of the meticulous distinction between the two, all the advantages of the passage from one to the other, with full practical knowledge of the three repertoires: the break, the passage, and the repair. And then 37 says, Hans Jonas, in The Imperative of Responsibility, in search of an ethic, ethics, sorry, for the technological age, um, wanting the moderns to follow the consequences of their actions through all their twists and turns, mistakes them for blacks because, without regard for the cost, he requires them to lose precisely what constitutes, or what constituted, their exemplary strength, their partial irresponsibility, the rupture in the community of continuity of the action, the incomprehensible surprise faced with the distinct appearance of natural facts on the one hand and ethical responsibility on the other. Interesting. Um,
Very important. You
so
cannot. As,
yeah, this is what you were saying earlier, that Latour is not saying, this is all bad, right? Because what he's saying here is that Jonas uh is mistaken in requiring them to lose what constitutes their exemplary strength. Um
this is very much. Yeah. This is very much a lot of the a lot of the like um things and values he is situating will be towards more accurate descriptions
mhm,
of things. Um, and it's why for him you cannot confuse the Gold Coast Blacks and the amulet covered Portuguese. You can't. There's no
mhm.
confusing them. They aren't.
Yeah.
You can't just invert them.
Yes.
It
No,
doesn't work
exactly.
that
You
way.
can't just say the moderns are the new fetishists, because that's
Yeah.
literally just the exact same problem. And he, as he says, it's without regard to the cost, because like in my estimation, right, um there are legitimate benefits to the fact that science is seen as autonomous and independent, right? Where,
Yeah,
we're seeing right now in the United States the like potential downside of seeing science as a strictly political matter, where now funding to scientists is getting cut left and right, um without much regard for what the consequences of that will be. So it's not.
you will
Mhm,
you will recall in Why Has Critique Run Out of Steam,
mhm.
which was written in like 2003 or 4, um, him talking about a very similar thing even happening then,
Yep.
where people, politicians kind of abusing this kind of thing,
Mhm.
ended up completely inverting what he means,
Yeah, exactly. Like
or what
it's
people like him mean.
mhm. Like it's and to be fair, there are some, I've seen these kinds of things happen, right? Where it's, science is a construct, therefore science is bad, right?
Yeah,
That can be used for good and for ill, you know. Like we have the setup we do, but the I guess in what he would say is, the people who are trying to like unmask science and say, see, science is a fetish, they are doing what what Jagannath was doing. They are um they are misunderstanding, misattributing the source, and also threatening to like to break something. Like they're choosing the wrong targets. Um, is what I'm getting from this. And yeah, again, we can see that right now in the current United States of America, um, how the independence um afforded to scientists is often a good thing. It's often a bad thing too. That's not to say that it has costs and it has benefits. And I think what this footnote is saying is that um, there would be a cost to uh, requiring the bridging of this separation. But yeah. Anyway, just to reread that sentence. Um, Yes. On top, in the light of broken fetishes, people will speak only of science on one side and of freedom on the other, without ever mixing the two. Even if by some prudent mending and with many feedback loops, arrows and round trips, the two broken parts are fitted back together, though their spirits can never be glued back into place. All the advantages of criticism on top, all the advantage of practice on the bottom, all the advantages of the meticulous distinction between the two, all the advantages of the passage from one to the other, with full practical knowledge of the three repertoires, the break, the passage, and the repair. You can surely see that the whites, too, are worthy of interest, since they are able to display enough distinctive features for comparative anthropology to study. And I think, this is important because he's saying that, like, you know, even though they are not uh even though they are not like distinctly modern, there is something different about them. It's just not fundamentally different. Um
Also, this is Pippa. This is where I get my long run sentences from. It's from Latour. It's from because Latour does the long fucking run sentences, but
yeah.
he includes lots of commas, lots of colons, lots of
Yep. Oh,
semicolons.
I do this shit too. I've been doing this for a long time. Even like long before Latour. Uh but yes. Yes. Let there be no misunderstanding here. I am not reducing the moderns, in order to shame them for a moment, to the monstrous and barbaric piety with which they thought they had definitively broken. I am not receiving or reviving the theme of the idols of the forum, marketplace, or temple in order to accuse reasonable people of believing, in spite of everything, the way the Gold Coast blacks or pariahs did. I am not encouraging them to make an ultimate heroic effort like the hammer wielding philosophers and smash the last superstitions that might still slumber within the sciences and democracy. The very definitions of monster, barbarism, idols, hammer, and rupture have to be taken up again from scratch. There have never been any barbarians. We have never been modern, even in our dreams, especially in our dreams. If I am putting amulet covered Portuguese on the same level as amulet covered Guineans, rather, fetishists on the same level as anti fetishists, shallogram worshippers on the same level as iconoclastic Brahmins, I am not dragging them all down, I am pulling them all up. Who knows most about paying equal respect to facts and fetishes? Why, obviously, those who have always gotten their factishes to say that they are being used as passages for what goes beyond them when they are being constructed. Are we moderns, too, capable of such dignity? Of course we are, not to worry. Otherwise, you couldn't pray, create, think, discover, build, fabricate, work, or love. It is only that our distinctiveness comes from one particular characteristic feature. Our factishes, even though they are broken, are mended in such a way that they relegate to practice what theory can grasp only in the double form of breakage and repair. I'm going to highlight that. Such is our tradition, that of fetish breakers and menders of fetishes. Such are our ancestors, to be respected, but not too much, as is the case for any venerable tradition. And this goes to 38. Uh, Sorry, just give me a second. 38. Let us not forget that we also owe another dichotomy to the moderns and to them alone, the dichotomy between respect for ancestors on the one hand and inventiveness free of ties to the past on the other. Reaction and revolution, tradition and innovation emerge from the strange notion of time that is itself broken. Okay. I don't really know what to say about that one. Envy, do you have
Something in his other stuff. It's
okay.
the term he calls this is the fucking a part of this thing is a term he created, which is like the. It's really funny when you hear a lot of Latour's terms, but he calls it the polytemporal spiral. And
Okay.
it sounds like it just sounds like it's really funny because Latour usually doesn't use language like Latour doesn't usually say stuff that like just
Mhm.
doesn't obviously make sense to you in
Is that
some
is
way
that the
like
is that the
that.
thing that's in your a lot of your thumbnails? Because that is a spiral, or is that a different spiral?
I actually think, yeah, I think that actually is. That
Okay,
actually is what it is because I haven't changed it.
yeah. Well, you know, maybe spirals aren't always bad in philosophy. You know.
um, there's the want to know a deep cut? Want to know a deep cut?
Go for it. Go for it.
Um, Latour in one of his books refers to something Einstein talked about, which is the reference mollusk.
Interesting. I don't know anything
I
about.
think that's what it is.
Okay.
Yeah, it is. It was a deep cut for me because I also like another person named Loser, and one of the books he has is about
Should
the
have gotten a
vampire
better
squid.
name, so I wanted to take him seriously. Or what did you say his name was?
Looser,
Oh, looser. Okay. I thought you I thought you
looser
I thought you said
with
loser.
a with
I
an
was
F.
like,
No, with an F.
okay,
Looser.
Flooser. Oh, Flooser. Oh my god. Okay. Sorry. I
Very
have a
good.
hard time with some phonemes for some reason. Anyway, um continuing on. I must confess that I rather like the portrait of the modern world that we produce if we re-establish the multitude of broken, mended, practical factishes at all points, in all places, on every steeple, gable, and temple, at every branching and intersection. I must confess that I rather like the portrait of the modern world that we produce if we re-establish them all of these factishes. Okay. Yeah, The Atlanteans and the Lemurians, exactly. uh, or is that a vampire? I'm not sure.
That's a vampire.
Yeah. I'm guessing this is an oblique reference to the Atlanteans and the Lemurians, and I'm not going to think otherwise. But anyway, um, in every steeple, gable, and temple, at every branching and intersection, we no longer need to contrast the disenchanted, virtual, absent, deterritorialized world with the other one, the rich, intimate, compact, and complete world that belongs to the primitives, who have never lived in the fetal quiet of noble savage dreams. God damn it, Brooks! Is there a way? I don't know how to. How do I change my settings? Where what setting do I have to change? Yes, okay, I get it. I get it. I'm doing it right now. I'm doing it right now. What setting do I change? Um settings? Uh privacy? Is it in privacy? Mentions live chat, playback and performance. Okay. How to allow raids on YouTube. Okay. All right. YouTube Studio. Brooks, I'm doing it right now. Uh, copyright earn. Then what? Uh, no. How do I enable? How do I allow other people to raid me?
Okay, I figured it out.
Mm-hmm.
So what you do is you go to what's it called? You go to your settings,
Yep.
you click on the community tab. Should be a
Community.
community tab.
Yep.
And then there should be a thing called live redirects.
Uh, all I'm seeing is comments, viewer posts, mentions. Um,
There is a chance. Okay, so I learned
settings.
this.
Oh, I found it. I found it. I found it. Community. Is it community moderation defaults? Uh, posts
I
in
don't
your
think so.
community.
There is a chance that you have to scroll down in community moderation. Yes, you have to scroll down.
Okay. I have to scroll down in
Yeah,
community.
in community moderation. Yeah,
Okay.
it's
Automated
like
filters. Oh, allow all
there's
channels can redirect to my content. Save. There we go. I did it. I did it. I did it. I did it.
there you go,
My
Brooks. I did it for you. I'm a tech wizard.
yep.
AKA I looked at a video.
Okay, thank you.
Edley just pulled up a video and muted it. And I was like, okay, let's see how to do this.
Let's hope that let's hope I did it in time. Um customize yeah, yeah, so settings, community moderation. Yeah. It should be. Am I not subscribed to the Quarantine Collective? That would have solved this problem. I could have just subscribed, but
That is, you could have just subscribed, yeah.
um yes. Anyhow, um did I want to where did I leave off? I'm gonna assume that I did it right. Actually, you know what? Just in case, I'm gonna just subscribe to the Quarantine Collective. I didn't know I wasn't already. Oh, there they are. Hello, hello,
We need to
Quarantine
fucking do
Collective.
that.
Uh, now I don't have to subscribe. Let's go. I swear I was subscribed, but no, I definitely am. Anyway, I should be. I should be.
YouTube unsubscribed you.
No, I'm definitely subscribed, so it should have been working. I don't know why it wasn't, but now now there's no doubt it will work. Um anyway, hello everybody from the collective. I don't know how much well, we only have so much left in this section, so I don't know how much long. Volume is a bit low compared to Brooks's stream. Well, I mean, I don't know what to tell you about that. I could try I could try to turn up the volume, but it's been like this the whole time. I think what's more important is the balancing. You can turn up your own volume. Sorry.
You can turn up your own volume, Estelle.
Yeah.
There's a volume button
Yeah.
on your computer or on your phone.
You came back from the Latour hate. Were you a Latour hater before? Interesting. Anyway, um yes. I will continue reading. So, I must confess that I rather like the portrait of the modern world where we produce if we reestablish the multitude of broken, mended, practical factishes at all points, in all places, on every steeple, gable, and temple, at every branching and intersection. Um, we no longer need to contrast the disenchanted, virtual, absent, deterritorialized world with the other one, the rich, intimate, compact, and complete world that belongs to the primitives, who have never lived in the fetal quiet of noble savage dreams. Um, Max volume. I don't know what they're on about. Sorry, let me make sure I
They're wanting
understand.
you to peek your. They're wanting you to peek your mind.
Is this better? Is this better? Can you
Yeah,
hear me better
this is what they
now?
wanted. This is what they wanted.
Yeah. Um Anyway, the disenchanted we no longer need to contrast the Okay, so disenchanted, virtual, absent, deterritorialized. Yeah, so it seems like here he's taking shots at a lot of people cuz disenchanted I think is a shot at Weber. Um and deterritorialized obviously is a shot at Deleuze and Guattari. Um I don't know about virtual or absent. Virtual might be maybe this is a shot at Baudrillard. Not sure about absent though. But yeah, it seems like he's taking shots at a couple different people here, and basically saying that um uh we don't need to make this to draw the distinction between the supposedly disenchanted world we have now and the rich, intimate, compact, and complete world that belongs to the primitives who have never lived in the fetal quiet of noble savage dreams. But we no longer have to imagine either that we are going to get away with our truth, efficiency, and bottom lines from the horrible barbaric magma toward which, if we are not careful, our past might drag us down. There are no barbarians, no savages. We moderns, with our sciences and our technologies, our rights, our markets, and our democracies, are not barbaric either, whatever the Heideggerians may imagine. So this goes to footnote 39. Let me bring that up. Yeah. The reactionary movements of the 20th century that tried and are still trying to praise paganism and that seek to destroy the universality of reason are horribly mistaken about what they adore and what they abhor. Um, and I'm guessing what he's going to say here is that this is just another kind of belief in belief. It's another anti-fetishism. Yes, they depict the life of the savages as desirable according to the tenets of the most prosaic exoticism, and they hate reason for what it claims to be. Whereas in practice, reason displays the most civilized, most refined, most socialized, most localized, and most collective form of life there is. If we have to re anthropologize the modern world, we must do so from the top, through sciences and technologies, and not from the bottom, not by adding credence to the way of perceiving primitives and pagans that 3 centuries of ordinary clericalism and racism have thought they could impose. Interesting. Okay, I'm going to reread that because I'm a little bit confused. The reactionary movements of the 20th century that tried and are still trying to praise paganism, and that seek to destroy the universality of reason, are horribly mistaken about what they adore and what they abhor. So if he's talking about the 20th century, is he talking about like the like Nazi paganism kind of thing? Because there is like kind of an overlap there, but I'm not 100% sure which reactionary movements he's talking about. I guess you could insert your own.
The,
Sorry.
the people who want to, it is quite literally,
Mhm,
well, not with this necessarily, but there's a group of, so in We Never Modern, there is the moderns, the pre-moderns, the postmoderns, but there's a group he doesn't really get into,
mhm,
which is that much, because they are just doing the same thing, just in a different way, basically.
mhm,
Which are the anti-moderns, which they um, just kind of reverse what the moderns end up doing.
mhm. That makes sense. Okay. And so this would be, like return to
It
tradition sort of thing.
like return to the past. It is quite literally putting instead of the moderns, which is the push for the push for um a movement forward. Instead, they place it in going backwards. It's
Mhm.
just a reversal. It's just a reversing of it, but it's the
So is
same
this
thing,
so
just turned around.
does Trump count as this? Because like he ostensibly says, let's, make America great again or whatever, right? Or does he fall into a different category of thing for Latour?
Um. Uh. That's a good question.
If you don't know, that's
His
also fine.
rhetoric is certainly his rhetoric. Um, Depending on how you take it, could probably be classified as anti-modern, but I don't know if like
Hmm.
he himself could be classified as anti-modern.
Yeah. No, I definitely think that's true because like he's fine using uh modern methods of control or whatever, right? Modern military methods, but it's not his rhetoric is definitely anti-modern. Uh yeah, coal that's true. Coal mining is maybe another thing, right? Like but it's like his anti-modernism serves a particular political function, right? Like I don't think that he's naively anti-modern. Um
For Latour, he would probably be modern.
yeah.
Is what I'm just gonna say,
Okay.
because that is probably what you can assume.
Hmm. Anyway, so the reactionary movements, blah 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 blah. Yeah, so they seek to destroy the universality of reason are horribly mistaken about what they adore and what they abhor. They depict the life of savages as desirable according to the tenets of the most prosaic exoticism. Okay, what is prosaic exoticism? I'm not 100% sure on
The
that
no,
one.
the noble savage,
Okay, sure.
the savages. You see, it
Hmm.
was these people. They never did anything wrong. They were perfect, and it was us
Hmm.
silly whites that were that only did the wrong things. It's kind of like that. It's
I
just
see.
like that, basically.
Okay. And they hate reason for what it claims to be, whereas in practice, reason displays the most civilized, most refined, most socialized, most localized, and most collective form of life there is. Um, if we have to re anthropologize the modern world, we must do so from the top through sciences and technologies and not from the bottom, not by adding credence to the way of perceiving primitives and pagans that 3 centuries of ordinary clericalism and racism have thought they could impose. So he's in other words, he's not in this diagnosis. He's being very careful not to do uh not to be anti-modern. He is not anti-modern. Uh, he's not. He's
Or
also
doesn't like the noble savage.
yeah, and he's also not saying that like the split that he's talking about is always a bad thing. Like this is just a reaffirmation of that. That um, you know, we are confront. He's saying that we're confronted with this living arrangement, and that the way of you know exploring it is not the way that he talks about in the last section that we read, where the what's his name? I literally just said his name not too long ago. But where the guy like forces the pariahs to touch the stone. Um
Again enough.
yeah, exactly. Where he forces them to touch the stone, and thus in order to like dispel the power of the stone, supposedly. um
Yeah.
this is the wrong target for Latour. This is not productive in any way. It's just it is actually another kind of fetishism. It is applying the power of the double inversion to this fetish object. Um, it's just that in this case, it would be reason is what's being given the it's what's being given this power of double inversion, and thus fetishized in an objectionable sense. Sorry, not fetishized, but is being
Denounced.
yes, is being double yes, is being denounced, yeah. And it's being given the power of the double denunciation.
Yeah.
That was a long-winded way of explaining it, but it's very dense. This is a very dense text, so I'm trying to make sure that I'm not not making a mistake here. Anyway, continuing. We are like everyone else. Where is the problem? Where is the loss? Where is the danger? Except that we are linked by countless ties to the particular factishes, our ancestors, our traditions, our lineages, that allow us to live and pass. We are indeed the heirs of those fetish breakers and fetish menders. Comparative anthropology now has the means to rekindle a dialogue that seems more fertile to me than the ones we hear at UNESCO. Um, what is UNESCO? I feel like I
United
should know.
Nations
Yes.
Education, Scientific, and Cultural
Okay.
Organization.
I feel like I should know what UNESCO is because I've seen this acronym before, but I don't actually. Yeah. Okay. Yes, comparative anthropology now has the means to rekindle a dialogue that seems more fertile to me than the ones we hear at UNESCO or the ones offered by the tedious resentments of anti-imperialism. Interesting. Is this resentments in like the Nietzschean sense of resentments? Or is this just
Uh, it might be. There's a
okay.
good chance.
Brooks, if you're
Um,
still here, uh
um,
is this an invocation of Nietzsche or not? So that's interesting to me, and I
I,
find I don't know. This one gives me a little bit of pause, right? Because like obviously not all anti-imperialist movements are good ones, right? A lot of time, like especially on Twitter, people talk about anti-imperialist movements. I'm an anti-imperialist, and what they really mean is, I'm pro whatever is not the United States, right? Um, but I'm a little I'm a little hesitant over what this supposedly scopes over. Um, uh, do you happen to know Envy?
it's the next line.
Oh, for the first
Yeah.
time, perhaps we no longer have any barbarians, not outside the gates, and certainly not inside. For the first time, perhaps, then, when we use the word civilization, this admirable term need not be surrounded by dark forces that are only waiting for the signal to rush across the dividing line and destroy everything. Uh, for the first time, perhaps, we can remember that civilizations are not mortal. Huh.
When he's talking about the
Hmm.
tedious resentments of anti-imperialism,
Hmm.
he is probably talking about like he talks about here, the placing of the barbarians not not outside, not in Iraq or Iran, but inside your own country.
Hmm.
That these are actually where the barbarians were. For Latour, there are no barbarians. No one.
Okay. I see. Okay.
It's more attacking a specific attitude and rhetoric than I think anti-imperialism itself
Okay.
as a thing.
No, I think I could no, because I can understand, right? Because like it's exactly what I was saying earlier about, the supposed anti-imperialism that is expressed by a lot of, like, for example, MAGA communists like Haas, or what's his name? Uh, Jackson Hinkle? Uh I don't remember his name.
Jackson Heckle. Yeah,
Heckle.
it's Hinkle. It's
Yeah.
Hinkle.
Right. Whatever.
Jackson Heckles you.
Yeah. But so yeah, like that kind of thing where it's like, actually it's just that the US is the barbarians, and everyone else, they're saints with nothing, uh
Yeah.
nothing wrong with them, whatever it is against the US is good, kind of thing. He's not, on your reading at least, referring to, like, like local anti-imperialist movements that are like literally trying to stop imperialism from happening to them.
Yeah, I would. It it also mainly just doesn't fit into Latour's project generally.
Mhm.
so is kind of the other thing. But yeah, no, I'm pretty sure that's what he means by that.
What
A
doesn't
lot of
what
um Latour in the way he talks about stuff like global warming
Mhm.
is um there are specific things that lend to it, and there's specific things within Ant that if Latour was um I'm not saying Latour isn't iffy sometimes. Latour is.
Mhm.
Latour is, I don't think he's iffy like that.
Okay.
Where he would be like that. I think maybe there's not that Latour's like a racist, not really, but I think that he might there might be some byproducts from certain things
Okay.
that lend to certain other things. It's complicated.
Yeah. I mean, I again, this is it's just like it's like this line just feels a little off color to me as like as a reader. So I'm, I
Oh,
mhm.
oh. So I read this
Mhm.
during one of the things. So I read this book um like after, like it was like a few months after um the war in Gaza came out,
Mhm.
and he references that in this.
Oh, does he?
And yes, yes.
Interesting. Okay. I guess we'll see what happens, how he references that. Um
Oh, it's much tamer than this, but it was still very shocking to me. It was very fucking very. I was like, what?
mhm. I guess we shall see. But there is one last footnote for this section, um, which is, for the first time, perhaps we can remember that civilizations are not mortal. Um, and if I go to the footnote for that, it says, as Marshall Salins reminds us in Culture in Practice, whereas not long ago anthropology despaired as it saw cultures coming to an end, or as it faced its own postmodern implosion, it now finds itself overwhelmed by the rebirth of new cultures that are not modern and that are asking to be studied. We have yet to measure fully how much the equilibration of in favor of Asia lightens Westerners. What? Sorry. We have yet to measure fully how much the re-equilibration in favor of Asia lightens Westerners. The end of Europe's guilt. The beginning of an anthropology finally as robust as the societies it must be able to analyze without destroying them. Huh. Okay. Let me try to reread that, because I'm once again a little confused on what he means here. So as Marshall Silence reminds us, whereas not long ago anthropology despaired as it saw cultures coming to an end, um, it now finds itself overwhelmed by the rebirth of new cultures that are not modern and that are asking to be studied. We have yet to measure fully how much the re-equilibration in favor of Asia lightens Westerners. Is he talking about like economic re-equilibration here? Like in what respect is it we re-equilibrating?
I can probably look up the book and figure it out.
Okay.
Culture and practice. Let's see. Oh, it's a set of essays. It's a set of essays.
Yeah. Yeah, and it doesn't cite the specific essay. Tisk tisk. Tisk tisk.
Does he have a? Do you have like an actual bibliography at the end of this? I forget.
It's a good question.
Let's see.
Let me see.
No, he doesn't.
No. Yeah, well this is the yeah, this is just the in-text citations, right? He do he do be French in his writings. Um sure. Yes. He do in fact indeed be French. Um
That is probably what it is.
I mean that's possible, but it's the re-equilibration in favor of Asia. That's why I'm a little confused. Yes. So the end of Europe's guilt, the beginning of an anthropology finally as robust as the societies it must be able to analyze without destroying them. Okay. And with that, we come to the end of this section. Um
Yeah, and then Latour is going to talk about how he's afraid of transgender people in the next
oh
section.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, it says trans
Yes.
fears right there.
Trans fears, yeah, it does say that. That is
Or
literally what it's going to be
is
about.
this the fears that trans people have? Hmm. Are they
Yeah.
afraid of themselves? Hmm. Am I afraid of myself? Who knows? Anyway, um yeah, I so far that is part 1 of chapter 1. So far I'm really enjoying this book. I'm finding it very therapeutic as I've said multiple times because like as, you know, I am now a graduated sociologist and I have definitely been exposed to a lot of the things that Latour is critiquing um, throughout this first essay, and I, so it's definitely giving me a different way of using them, um, which goes beyond maybe the way I might have before. Um, and obviously I want him to finish his arguments entirely before I like give a full judgment, but I'm very much enjoying this so far. I definitely think there's a lot of value here. I'm not I probably have like a few small quibbles, but I guess we'll see like how things resolve over time. um and
And
mhm.
and look about it like this. It only took you like 8 hours
Yeah.
to get through the first part of the
Yeah.
first chapter.
Yeah, 8 hours for 34 pages.
Yeah.
um Still going faster than Brooks though. So that's
Yeah, that
that's
is true.
something.
You are going faster than books, yeah.
uh but yeah, I mean, look, if I were reading this on my own, it would probably take a shorter amount of time. But I think having to sit with it and really really dig into it and understand it is valuable. And yes, yes, exactly. Yes,
It's
thank you,
it's
Pippa.
it's a it's it's okay. It would probably take you like maybe at best a fourth of the time. I mean, yeah, you would shave off a fourth of the time.
Yeah, but
Latour books are
mhm,
kind of fucking insane.
yeah, but I would have less of an understanding as a result, I think.
Yeah.
Um, I really like being able to, ask as I'm going, like what is happening and what's going on and all that. So yeah, that will be it for today's stream. We went pretty long. So the next section is I want to see. Oh, this is just an introductory paragraph, and then the next section is not so long. So yeah, I shall be ending stream now. Thank you everybody for coming. Brooks, thank you for rating. I hope you all enjoyed the stream. Um, Everybody, if you're not already subscribed to Envy, you should go subscribe to Envy. Uh, Her channel is in the should be in the title. And if it's not, just search up at Envy is political, and um it should come up. She is doing her
Yeah,
own
because
reading of Latour right now, The Politics of Nature. It's very good. You should go. You should go watch those. If you have a hankering for more Latour right now, or my previous
and
streams. Yeah.
if you are subscribed, remember to unsubscribe
Oh.
once you get there.
We're inverting the inversion. I see.
Yeah,
All right.
reversing the reversal.
Yes. But anyway, take care, everybody, and I will see.